Welcome to Danielle Scraps. My name is Danielle and I'm glad that you're here. Make sure you hit subscribe, like, and that bell so you don't miss another tutorial. I love a Little Latte paper collection from Stampin' Up. And I needed some custom titles for the layouts that I was making using this DSP paper. And so today I'm going to show you how I made these really cute titles using my Cricut and Print Then Cut, but I don't have a color printer, so I want to show you how I made them super colorful without a color printer. So I really hope that you enjoy this tutorial and that you love the layouts I've made and the card that I will make using the Print Then Cut. Enjoy! All right, let's dive into how I created those titles for my workshop files and my layouts, I apologize, and this coffee card. So the first thing I want to do is I want to add some text into my project. So let's move this over here so you can see it. I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger. The font that I've chosen is this BFC Autumn Harvest. So if you have Cricut access, it'll be right in there. Otherwise, just choose any sort of font that you want. The first thing I do, I am going to change it to my saying that I want for my cards. So I love you, latte. All right, let me see if I can get this changed to a capital I. There we go. That'll be fine. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is I want to pull my letter spacing together. Just make sure that this is all good. And I just want to bring the spacing for my letters closer, if I can get it to cooperate here. All right, there's that. And then I want my spacing between the two lines to be closer. So I'm going to just mess with my line space up here until I get them right where I want them. All right, perfect. So I love you a latte. So I have that. I love how that looks. And I'm going to do an offset. So this offset, I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller than that. I'm going to do 0.014. And that's going to give me a very, very thin line. I'm going to hit apply. Now you see that there's here. So I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to slice it. Okay. So now what I can do is I can take away these parts here and I'm left with this outline. And before I turn it into a Print Then Cut, I'm going to offset it again. And this time it's going to be bigger. A little bit bigger. All right, I like that. We can go just a tad bit smaller. Hit apply. Wow, look at that. Isn't that great? So now when I pull this away, I see this here. I just want to check the contour and make sure that all the pieces that are going to cut are necessary. So I definitely would like the O's to be cut out, but other than that, the other ones can sort of go away. So now I have this, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn it white. So this is my offset. I'm turning my offset white. And now I'm going to select my writing or my basic cut and I'm going to turn it into a Print Then Cut. All right. So you're going to put these on top of each other. I'm going to use my align and just center them. Perfect. And while they're attached, I'm going to flatten that. I now have created an outline that Cricut will cut, and my printer will cut this outline of the words or print the outline of the words in black and white. So this is very useful for folks who don't have a colored printer. So I'm going to also bring in an image, and it's a coffee card. So I'm just going to type in coffee here. I'm going to click purchased, even though I have Cricut access, but I'm looking for a specific one that I've already previously used that I want to color. And here it is, right here. I'm going to add this to my canvas. And this is going to be something very similar to what we did with the letters. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to ungroup it. And now I'm going to turn this into a print then cut image. So I'm going to change my offset to 0.014. Oops, I've got to add my 0 in there. That's going to give me that thin line. I'm going to hit apply. I'm going to highlight it and slice. I don't need this. I don't need that. And now I have this outline right here. I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to give it an offset. That 0.014 is what I'm looking for. I'm going to slice it. So I need to highlight all of the elements here. Slice. And take away the pieces that I don't need. And now I'm going to have both of these be separate from each other. So I'm going to set this off to the side, and I'm going to give it an offset. And then this offset can be just a hair bigger than what we have here. Oop, that's a little too big. Let's do 0.069. That usually has this nice white border to it. And then I'm going to hit apply. And then I'm just going to change my offset here to white. And then I'm going to go back in to this offset and just make sure that it's a solid image. And so I'm going to hide all contours. And now I have the solid image here. And this I'm going to change to a print then cut. And then I'm going to center these again and flatten them. And now I have this coffee mug here. And now I have this little piece right here. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to click offset. And because this is going to layer on top of the other piece, I don't want it as big. So we'll try this 0.025. Apply that. I'm going to take this piece right here, or all my contour. I'm going to hide everything. So I just have that nice plain piece. I'm going to turn it white. And I'll layer these two on top of each other. And before I do that, I'm going to turn this into a print then cut. So this will theoretically be 2 pieces for this coffee cup that's going to come out. We're going to arrange those in the center, and then we're going to flatten them. All right, so now I have 2 pieces of my coffee cup. They will print and cut separately, and then they will layer on top of each other. I'm not doing anything but grouping them on top, like right here. And then I have my sentiment. I'm just going to size my sentiment to what I would want it to be for the front card. So I'm going to make an A2 card. So we don't want it any wider than 4.25. So let's make it like 3.5 and see what we come up with there. That gives us 2 inches tall. So let me just bring in a basic shape here, and let's change it to the size of a card just so that you can see what it will look like before I flip over to what it looks like once it's printed. So a card is 4.25 by 5.5 tall. All right, we'll lock that. And then we're going to send this to the back. And then now you can see how this sentiment is going to print. So now I have my coffee cup that's here, and we can resize this so that it matches exactly how we want it to look. So there's our coffee cup. Here's the I love you a lot. And if we want all of this to be just a tad bit smaller, so then our coffee cup is going to be, let's make it 1.75 tall. All right, and then we have the I love you a latte. I didn't Hold both of those down. Yikes. So whenever I do something like that, I always hit the back button, and that allows me just to take it back to the last place I left off. And there we go. And then I love you a latte. I just am going to select both of these and group them so that when I move this, all of my pieces move together. So here's this, and then there's I love you a latte. It fits great on a card. If I want to resize it or make it bigger, I can. And so I might want to do this. The nice thing about this, if I want 2 of these, I can just copy and I don't have to go through that whole process of doing the print and cut again. So I like that. So let's put this down to 2 inches wide, and we'll make this one 2 inches wide. There. And then we can see what we come up with this. So I don't need this background anymore. I'm going to get rid of that, and let's go ahead and make our card. Okay, so we have our items printed, and they've cut with this nice outline that we've created using that offset feature, and then print then cut. And so now this is ready for us to color any way we want to with any medium that we want to. So I've got my 2 optional coffee cups. There's the cover for our coffee. It's a little blurry. There we go. That we can put on. And so we have that 3D element. And then we also have our little card sentiment title. And this is big, so if you don't want them this big, you can always make them a lot smaller, but I like it big enough so that I can color with it. And I like using alcohol markers. I know that Stampin' Up! Has beautiful alcohol markers. I don't have them just yet, so I will revert back to using my tri-blend markers. So let's get to coloring these. So I have a few options here. So when I put this on, I'm going to put this up towards the top, and so I'm going to leave this white, and I'm going to come in with just a little bit of gray to sort of kind of give it a little bit of depth to it. And then I'm going to color these here. Since I have a lot of yellow here on the outside and I have this blue, I could color these any color, and all it will do is make it pop. So I'm going to come in with this coral blend. We have this light, medium, and a dark here. And then let me just grab some scratch paper so that I can see which one that I like the best that matches with what I'm working with here. So I can see that if I come in with this dark blend, I'm going to have some nice, almost coordinating to the T colors here. And if I come in with this medium, I'm going to almost coordinate pretty good. So this coral will be really good for that. And that's what I'm going to go ahead and color my cover. What is this thing called? I don't even know. I don't drink coffee. Fancy coffee, right? That's what I'm calling it, is fancy coffee. Let's get this right here. So I'm going to come in with my medium and just, I'm going to flick in. So this is the flicking motion that I'm going to use. And one word of advice is when you are coloring with a print a cut from a laser printer, you want to make sure that you heat set this ink, or you let it dry for quite some time. And that's so that that ink doesn't bleed. Your alcohol marker doesn't pick up that and then pull it with you. Okay, so I'm just pulling this in, and I'm just going to do it so that there's a light in the center. So that's why I'm doing it like this. So I'm just starting with this medium right here. Being a little bit careful around our heart. And we can leave the heart white if we want, or we can color it in. And I know it looks a little juvenile right now with my coloring technique, but it will pull together, I promise. So there we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with the dark towards the edge here and do that flicking motion again. I'm going to do this a couple of times, and this is really going to give me that light in the center that I'm looking for, that I was kind of talking about. And again, I know that you can see the lines and it looks a little funny, but trust me, it will all come together. If you've watched any of my videos, I love to color. I have such a good time just manipulating the color to do what I want it to do. So this is fun for me. And then I'm going to come in with a little bit of this light. And this light is going to be a little bit of a magic maker here. I'm going to pull from the bottom or the side edge here almost right into that center here. And it is going to rejuvenate that dark. And I'm just going to go over it a couple of times. And yes, you can still see some of those stroke marks. Don't worry. I'm just going to bring this through. And my main goal is to pull that color in. Okay? It lightens it at the same time as it pulls that color into the center. If you feel like you need more darkness in on the edges, just go ahead and add it in. You can even do that by just doing your medium instead of your dark. Now I haven't played or had the opportunity to play with Stampin' Up markers to understand or feel how they work in terms of this technique that I'm doing here. So if you have them, I would love to hear how you color. I'm coming in with that light blend right up that center here. And I'm just coloring a zigzag back and forth. And then I'm going to come in with the dark. And I just do this as how it feels right to me. And I encourage you to do it the same. And again, I am just coloring with this little flicking motion. Sometimes it's really good to do a circle. Sometimes it's good to do dots. So it just really depends on your medium or your object, actually. Not your medium, but your object that you're coloring. And again, I'm just picking that color up and sort of blending that line that I've created and pulling that towards the center here. And I'm using the medium. You're happy the way with it looks, stop. If you want to keep going, then keep going. And then I'm going to just come back in and do this zigzag back and forth, kind of manipulating some of that just to fill in a little bit of that. And now I have this really nice coloring blend. So if I want to come back in on this side and blend it some more, I certainly could. And I would just do that with my medium. And so I would do this zigzag through like that. And that would just get rid of some of those harsh lines, if there were any. And then I would do it again with my light right here. And that sort of smoothed it out a little bit more. And so now you can see where my light is coming in on my cup. So this is going to go right there. It's going to sit nicely here. And I love how it picks up some of these highlights and lowlights of those coffee mugs in there. So it's looking good already. Okay, so there's that. And then I'm going to show you how I'm going to highlight the top. I want it to stay white because usually your coffee lids are a little white. So I'm going to come in with my light gray so you can see how light that gray is right there. And I'm just the ever so slight flicking, like almost like a dot. Just right along those edges there. I'm going to do the same thing over here. And then at the top, I'm just going to just sort of follow the line that was created on the Cricut in my printer. If you feel like it got a little heavy, all you need to do is come in with a little colorless blender, and that just takes away any color you see there. So what I'm doing is I am just creating a little circle motion like this, and you'll see here in a second that will get lighter, and I'm just blending that out to create a little bit of a shadow here. And so I'll just let that sit for a moment, and then that will get a little bit lighter. Okay, so now I have this, and then we can color the rest of my mug here. And so what are my coffee to go container? And I'm just gonna just sort of slide this up slightly, and I'm gonna just come in with a gray colored pencil, and I give myself a line. There's no point in me coloring this part. I'm essentially wasting ink by coloring that area. All right, as we move along here, we're going to assemble our coffee cup. So I'm just going to add some dimensionals to our cover here. And before I do that, I'm going to create a shadow line so that lid has a little bit of a lip. And so it kind of gets a little bit more realistic here. So the dimensionals are these pop-up foam dots. So if you're familiar with Close to My Heart terminology, that would be equivalent to the 3D foam that we had there. So with Stampin' Up, we call those dimensionals, and they're this hexagon style, and they come on a pull-apart sheet. And then, you know, just like with Close to My Heart, you can utilize the frame and the outline of it also. So we'll put a couple of those on and pop that up so it has more of a realistic cover, if you will. And you can see that that light I created when coloring sort of matches up because I decided that the light was going to be right in the center of that cup. Now I could come in with the lid and create a gray similar function with that on the lid, but I wanted to leave that lid white. So when we have our card base, we can come in and just pop this right on that card base, and with that white outline that we created with the offset and the Cricut, it makes that pop. So if you have a busy background. Now the title is going to be the same coloring technique. You're just going to do soft, gentle, swift marks. You can also just do a straight line, or you can do dots where you just dot the ink between the lines of that very fine detail to add that color in. When you are using your inkjet printer, you want to make sure that your ink is dry before you start. So heat setting that, letting it dry for hours is very good. Otherwise, what happens is that alcohol marker will pull that ink in. So if you're doing a lot of shading and it's really close to the lines of your project, you might have this gray color or this bleed that comes in because that marker is pulling that wet ink in. So make sure that when you're doing this technique, your images are completely dry once print and cut is completed. So I am just going to alternate these colors in here, as you can see. So I chose 3 colors that first color was the Coral Blend from the Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers. The second color was that Citrus Blend, and I just used the light end of that. And then that third one is actually the Blue Turquoise Blend, and I'm using the lighter of that one also. And so I just alternate those letters every third letter I'm coloring just to save myself some time here. Now, if you go outside of the lines, and you won't see me do this on camera, and I do apologize, but you will see it in the final result. If you go outside of the lines when you're coloring, whether it's a stamped image, a print then cut, what have you, you can use a white gel pen. And that's as simple as a jelly roll pen. And I just use a 05 jelly roll, and I go on the outside wherever my marker has gone, and I just dot it on, and it will cover it up. Sometimes I need to let it dry and go over it one more time, but I try not to do strokes with the jelly pen just because if you're heavy-handed like I am, it can leave a little bit of a mark on there, and you can actually tell where that ended, and it leaves a little peekaboo of the color. So I like to do a little dot and then go over it that way, and then it hides any of those any outside of the line coloring. So there's all of those good little tips for you there. Now I do have an extra one, and I'll end up coloring that off camera, and I'll end up changing this card quite a bit from what you see here to what you see at the end of the video when I show you my samples of a finished card here. If I were to do this again, I would definitely make my sentiments smaller, I believe, just because it takes up a lot of space on the front of this card. And I may even leave it the same size and make my coffee mugs, cups, these to-go containers smaller as well. But the premise behind the whole video here isn't necessarily assembling or making the card. It was giving you an option of using print then cut on your Cricut if you don't have a color printer. So, you know, for myself, I have a color printer, but it doesn't print nicely. And I'm not really in the market to get a new one. I don't do a whole lot of coloring printed colors on my printer to warrant that. So I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, that you were able to get something out of it, and I hope that you have an excellent time creating with this newfound little tips and tricks with your print then cut. Until next time, I'll see you soon. Have a good one. Bye, everybody.